So we're looking at how to optimize on vast market opportunities in Africa and increase profitability. The underlying factor is that we've already experienced some kind of, we've already been able to create some value. We've already been able to create some revenues. We want to see how we can move to the next level in value creation and revenue generation. First, we want to create value for the consumer. Then we look at generating revenues for the operator. So, my name is Daniel, like I was introduced. I'm Operations Manager for Airtel Africa Managed Services, and I work with Conviva Technologies. Sorry. I'm trying to move to the next slide. I got it. Thank you. So the objectives we're going to look at is, one, how we can drive revenues and create loyalty through inventive VAS offerings, how we can tactfully identify profitable services that will ensure return on investment, how we can also optimize business performance through innovative VAS offerings, how we can also ensure VAS profitability through selective penetration, how to customize our VAS offerings to meet market segmentation, how we can also monetize VAS offerings in an emerging market, and finally, the cost-effective management of delivering VAS to low-income segment areas, especially the rural areas. So I'm looking at Africa, how we stand today, 54 countries, 30 million kilometers square, approximately 1.2 billion people. The last mobile penetration as at December 2011, according to the GSMA, was 62%. We have varying statistics from different places, but I chose to go with the 62% as at December. But definitely we've gone beyond 60% in mobile penetration. And certainly that also doesn't mean that we have maybe that percentage of people having mobile phones, but that we have mobile subscriptions hitting that percentage. We know in most parts of Africa, a lot of people use dual SIMs. So you may have maybe approximately 1.5 people using multiple SIMs. We've already experienced some kind of opportunities that have been utilized by the OPCOs in terms of applications in education, health, agric, business, talking about mobile financial services, in transportation, security, social networking, and entertainment. We are already thriving with some services in these areas, but we want to look at the room for growth. The room for growth. And I want to emphasize on 3 key areas: mobile financial services, data services, and mobile entertainment services, because I feel there is so much room for growth in these areas. There is so much room for growth in these areas. When we look at the global first in Safaricom mobile money, the M-Pesa, we realized that since then there has been success stories all around Africa in mobile money. And every time the services are generating revenues and they are becoming success stories, it tells us that there is still some untapped revenues in mobile money and untapped value which we need to create for the consumers, which is yet undone. So I'll look at 3 key areas for us to create value first for the consumer, and then we generate revenues for investors and for mobile operators. These three key areas, I'm looking at innovation, customization, and monetization. So we begin with innovation. And you'd agree with me that innovation is creative thinking, and it may mean that you are either creating new services or you are going to create extra value using the existing services that we have. So we are going to look at how do we create new services? How do we create extra value out of the existing services which we are already having? We are asking 3 questions under the objectives. How do we drive revenues and have loyalty through inventive VAS offerings? How to identify profitable services and ensure return on investment? And how to use innovative VAS offering to optimize business performance. So innovation, 1, how do we drive revenues and loyalty through inventive VAS offerings? I have put it that point number 1, I think operators need to run a lot of service. Because before you offer any service which is of value, you must know whether the service is actually needed, whether the service is actually going to meet the needs of the consumers. And so I think that operators need to run a lot of service in partnerships with media to be able to get the collective data that is required to meet these needs. And second, I think that based on that, the operators need to offer diverse product portfolio. We need not concentrate on one aspect and leave the others, because we have various people and the services that they enjoy or meet their needs. Operators also need to collect feedbacks via a free, dedicated 24/7 customer care interface. Some parts of Africa is difficult for operators, for consumers or subscribers to reach the operator. Sometimes you try calling call center and either it's busy or you stand on for more than an hour and you have some songs being played to you, and the consumer doesn't want to be listening to songs. He needs someone to talk to, and he needs to give his feedback. He needs to say what is wrong with his service and how he wants it. And so these things are very important. The operator must concentrate and provide an excellent customer care interface that will collect the feedbacks. And I want to also emphasize that I think operators should also identify the consumption trends. As the consumers are using the service, we look at what are they using the service for, or in what new ways do they intend to use the service. And we can see that success story from Safaricom when during the piloting phase, they intended to actually launch M-Pesa as something that is going to be used for just getting loans and paying back loans. And finally, when they realized that no, a lot of the subscribers were actually intending to use it for money transfer service, they had to refocus and relaunch it. And we saw the success story followed all throughout in Africa. So we need to follow the trends. What are consumers or subscribers using the service for? What do they intend to use the service for? And what I want to also say in providing loyalty for subscribers to stay connected and be loyal to the service is to provide advice of charge before, during, and after the usage of the service, as much as it may be in the case. Because sometimes I see one troubling part of the service in data. I do not really agree with it, that during usage of data bundles, that I should be charged immediately from my main balance once my bundle is exhausted. I just don't agree, because most subscribers don't even know that they are being charged from their main balance before they realize their balance is used up and they become offended. And that's where some operators experience churn. Because I have, let's say I have some $10 in my main balance. I've purchased a bundle of $5. I just know I have $10 in my main balance. Now, by the time maybe I have some antivirus update or some kind of software which require updates running in the background, most consumers may never know. And before he ends up using the bundle, and it runs into his main balance, and before he knows, his balance is gone. And he calls the customer saying, what's the problem? And he has to be told that, oh, you used all your bundle and you also utilized your main balance as well. Some operators explain that if you don't try to charge immediately from the main balance, you are losing money, because you want to get the money and you want to get it immediately. And the subscriber may also be doing something and you don't want it to be interrupted. But I think it's very important, if you want to have a subscriber, because most subscribers will not understand. If you want to have a subscriber connected to the service, be loyal to it, I think advice of charge is very important. If the service allowed before or during or after. How do we identify profitable services? I think first of all, we should think about creating value. Once we create value, we can generate the profits. And first, we need to know the customer, and we need to also gather some information with respect to what people are interested in. And we can do this effectively through media. That's my opinion. And I think that we should also find strong content partnerships, because content is what people are looking for everywhere. And so if as an operator, I don't have the content, I need to look for those who have the content, those who are doing well in the content business, link up with them and give the subscriber what he wants. And I think also we need to do dynamic pricing. And the key here is to be able to offer, a good value to price ratio, not cheap service, but valuable service. You can offer cheap service as an operator, and yet you will not be able to raise the kind of revenue that you intend to. And I see that in the Ghana market, for instance, we have 6 operators now in the Ghana market. 1 is a CDMA and 5 are GSM. And the first 2 that are top 2 in subscribers, they are the same top 2 in revenue. But when it comes to the 3rd and 4th position, the 3rd in terms of subscriber is rather the 4th in terms of revenue. And the 4th in terms of subscriber is rather the 3rd in terms of revenue. Because the 4th in terms of subscriber is, pricing well and running a lot of innovative services. The 3rd in terms of subscriber, who is the 4th in terms of revenue, is sort of concentrating on offering cheap service, if you like bringing the tariff very low. So it is like having the lowest of tariffs, and yet they are not able to reach out to reach the revenue. So the point here is not to offer cheap service, but to give subscribers value for their money. So once you are giving subscriber value, I think the subscriber will be willing to give out his money once the service is valuable to him or to her. Operators must form strong partnership. I think I've said that, and with media, banks, financial institutions, content providers, and all that there is, looking at the service needs, the varying service needs of the people. How to use innovative VAS offerings. I'm looking at the example that we had in Branton here in South Africa. I think it was, it deserves an applause. And the campaign that generated over 10 million USD, they just looked at the passion of South Africans, meant for football, giving that opportunity to be the coach. I mean, using simple interfaces, USSD, IVR, SMS. Sometimes we look at wild interfaces, deploying user interfaces like WAP and web, which has, I mean, a limited reachability, because not all will be using WAP and web, and not there are many also in Africa who, for cost of device, use very simple devices that don't even support WAP or web. All those slowly and gradually, most of those legacy handset, complete legacy that cannot do WAP and web are phasing out of the system. There's still a lot out there in the system. So I think that the user interfaces that can actually generate revenues from everybody is to focus on the simple USSD and SMS and IVR, whilst we still, for specific target markets, concentrate on the WAP and web interfaces. So after they sort of took that key of passion for sports, and they ran that program that allowed the user to actually interact and actually select his team and actually sort of even take out a player by voting. They got a lot of people to patronize within those 7 weeks, and they were able to generate a lot in terms of PO. And the business value in terms of following on Twitter and Facebook, following, and the patronage of the Carling Black label itself also increased. So what lessons that I think we can draw from Be The Coach campaign? I think that, one, we need to know our market target and the interest of our market. What do the people want? Because you first have to give service and value. Then we need to provide more interactive services, because the people could actually interact and feel a part of the campaign. That's why we had a lot of people patronizing in that campaign. And I think we need to also use common interfaces. I've said it, USSD, SMS, and I think most of the services that are have actually created huge revenues, like mobile money, M-Pesa. I think Safaricom used USSD, and I think others have used USSD or SIM interface, or simple SMS technologies for mobile payments. So we need to concentrate on simple technologies that exist but create extra value out of these technologies. We need to also advertise through, different media, so that we can reach the different people. If someone watches TV, some people don't watch TV. Some people are always on the internet. If someone is always on the internet, another person is somewhere else. Maybe he has mobile reachability. Apart from that, he might not have any other access. So we need to look at the different user interfaces and reach out. And we need to also use all kinds of advertising and campaign media to reach them. Consumers give out valuable revenues when they are touched on the right spot. I think if you touch me on the right spot, I'm willing to give you my money. So if you are not touching me on the right spot, I think it will be very difficult for you to get my money. And most consumers also go that way. The second major point I want to talk about is customization. I think customization is almost the single driving factor of revenue. Because if you can be able to sort of meet everybody's needs, this person has a different need, this person has a different need, but if you can be able to meet everybody's need, then you can be able to also create value for everybody, and you can also be able to raise revenue from everyone. So I think it's very important to customize and keep customizing and keep customizing. Most of the systems we purchase as operators must be flexible enough for daily, hourly customization. every time we need to, once we see the way the trend the market is going, we need to be able to change something and make it happen for the subscribers. So I think customization is key. Every operator must customize and keep customizing. You have all sorts of people, old men, old women, men, youth, adults, people, married people, singles, high-income earners, low-income earners, kids, all variety of people who are using the mobile network. And every one of them has different needs. So if you can just think through and see which services I'm going to provide to this group of people, this group of people, this group of people, I think you'll be able to meet the varying needs, and then we'll be able to create value and generate revenues. How do we ensure VAS profitability through selective penetration? I still remain on the point that customization is key. And also, in terms of bundles, I think that we need to actually do a lot of work in customizing for each of the different kinds of people: downloaders, browsers, night and weekend users. I mean, some people also want a family package or a group package, maybe for an organization where they can use the same data bundle. And some people might even have a particular plan, but another time they want a particular plan for something quick. The system has to be dynamic enough to be able to meet all these needs. How do we reach the low and middle-income earners? I think most times SMS and voice bundles and other VAS bundling will help a lot. We can, I remember there was a service we were deploying, and we tried to sort of, for instance, have maybe you buy a data plan, I can reward you with other VAS services like RBT or some wallpapers and stuff. So we ought to bundle all the VAS services together and make it as dynamic as possible. Then how do we ensure still VAS profitability through selective penetration? I think we should still monitor the usage and encourage usage where the traffic is low through giving discounts like we do with zone services. We also need to keep a competitive price, like I said earlier, not cheap service, but valuable service. I think VAS can also be offered on a stand-alone. If you are offering VAS on a stand-alone, then there has to be a lot of dynamic content to meet the different needs. That is when we are looking at how to customize to meet different market segments. We need to keep customizing. If you are not offering diverse content on a standalone service, then you need to keep customizing and offer lower prices. We need to also, I've said already, utilize advertising media to reach our targets, and we also need to perform subscriber assessments. Subscribers are subscribing to the services. What user interface or subscription interface are they using? If you know the statistics, maybe it will help you in your service deployment. Low denomination vouchers, per second billing or pay-as-you-go billing, low cost of devices will facilitate, usage of VAS among low-income earners because they don't have the money and they plan a lot when they have to use a single cent of their money. I've said already, use simple interfaces like USSD, and we need to also create service categories so that we meet different people's need in different areas. Finally, how do we monetize? We are creating the value, we are customizing. How do we make sure we get the money for the service? I think we need to actually invest into sophisticated billing systems because sometimes I see some kind of loopholes in some billing systems. And I think one of the places that the operator should pay much attention is on the billing because that's where your money is coming from if you're an operator. And so we need to actually pay much attention to our billing systems and ensure that all those loopholes are closed. You have maybe some staff who leave the company, and maybe they use the services one way or the other. They know the loopholes, so they use the services for free. You have some vendors who know the loopholes, vendor engineers, they also use the service for free. And all kinds of free, and in the end, you don't get your money. So operators need to actually pay a lot of attention. And when we are running user acceptance tests, I think we need to be looking out for these loopholes. And we also need to avoid uninformed and unfair charges. If you want to keep monetizing, you need to avoid unfair and uninformed charges, because I know subscribers get offended by this and they leave the network. So if you are getting the money from the subscriber, it means that once the subscriber is gone, you are no longer going to get the money. I think we also need to have a good understanding of the laws and the regulatory frameworks of any country that you are going in as an investor or as an operator. We need to really understand what are the laws, what are the acts, what are the regulatory policies. I remember last year, I think the operators in Ghana lost a lot of money because they were running a lot of, most of their messaging services were based on lottery. And in Ghana, the lottery authority had gotten the sole, if you like, the sole right. I mean, no other business firm can actually run any form of lottery unless with partnership through the lottery authority. And so, I mean, once they stopped, most of the operators were generating revenue from these lottery-based services. And once they stopped them, their revenues came down hugely. And so we need to actually know what are the laws, what are the acts, what are the framework policies, and all that, so that we follow. And we also need, I think, to have a centralized mouthpiece. In Ghana last year, they formed the telecom chamber, and what the telecom chamber is doing is to stand between the operator and the regulator, so that they will be talking for the operator, and they will also be on the operator to make sure they deliver quality service to the consumer. So in the end, it's the consumer that benefits. And how do we reduce cost of delivering VAS to income segments, low-income segments in Africa? We know the challenges of low-income segments, especially the rural areas. When we have rural-urban migration, a lot of people leave the rural areas to come to the urban cities to come and find greener pastures. And so you have low population there. Secondly, they are low-income earners. Thirdly, there is low electrification. I mean, we don't have the speed of electrification to most of these rural areas is not there. I mean, you have, that is the challenge for most opcos to sort of invest there, because you have to invest a lot because there's no grid there where you can actually get your electricity and all that. And so the question is that how do we, I mean, reach these people? One, on service level, I think USSD, among all the subscription interfaces, USSD is the cheapest. IVR is costly, SMS is costly. And USSD, for instance, is about 7 times faster than SMS. And it's very much lighter. And so I think we should be looking at actually deploying most of our user interfaces with USSD. And I think most people already know how to use USSD, because in most parts of Africa, when you want to recharge, you just have your USSD code. So many people are already acquainted with it, and we can actually deploy most of our services through that. And USSD, when we are using the portal, also offer us that interactivity. So you can, for instance, what I call shortcode convergence, that you put all your shortcodes into one shortcode, so that instead of marketing 10 shortcodes, which is confusing the subscriber, when he wants to subscribe, he doesn't remember exactly which shortcode is for which service. But if I can actually advertise only one shortcode, and I have a USSD menu where I have a list of the other shortcodes. Any service I advertise, I use this same one shortcode, but I have a list of menu. When the guy goes to this shortcode, he has a menu, and from there he will see the list of the other shortcodes. He just has to press, and he subscribes to the service. And for me, I think that is a very effective and efficient way of delivering service without spending so much. I mean, putting a huge traffic on our network. And for infrastructure, I think many operators have already started it, looking at battery banks for places that they cannot actually reach, and other forms of power for their cell sites, which is cheaper. So I think I'll end here before I conclude, and I will take questions.